today, Charts Today comes to you from Fiji. I'm here on my way to Australia for Christmas. I'm staying on this private island called Serenity. There's only a handful of people staying here, and I'm really lucky. The internet's really good. I'm actually just about to sit down and do Charts Today, and I thought I'd just share it with you. But yeah, quite a location to be doing it, away from the noise of the market, which is really good. So let's take a look at the charts. So I'm catching up on markets, really, having been traveling the last couple of days, but it's just interesting just looking at stocks, looking at some of my stocks and just watching these train tracks. That's really what I want to see, is multiple targets pointing up and stocks making new highs. I noticed one of my Aussie stocks up 10% today. This is really what you want to be looking for, is good looking stocks. And I'm just waiting for this target here with a new high to be activated. That would give us another upside potential. So that's when those targets turn from orange to green. That's really quite key. So I want to see short term above the cloud and medium term above the cloud. Anyway, let's look at markets. The dollar has had a little bit of recovery so far this month. Really is quite a flat performance there, which means that we're not seeing much change on the dollar, but the yen has been the really interesting one. The downside target given last week met on Friday, and then we've seen a little bit of recovery in that dollar yen, but really we've gone from 152 all the way to touching 142. That's a massive move in a relatively short space of time. So quite key there. Sterling is actually just also activating a downside target, so that's starting to look weaker against that dollar on the 60-minute chart. And we see here we were waiting for this upside target to be activated with a move to a new high. Those are the activation levels that were required, but it hasn't happened, and we've now got downside potential back to 122.50 on sterling. So that's really quite key. So I'm just watching, holding on to US dollars at the moment, waiting for that rate to improve. Looking at Bitcoin, this has been a real tearaway recently. We've had a little bit of a pullback, and we're seeing that showing through on the short-term chart, waiting for this new upside target here to activate. So that's really quite key as well. But for the moment, there's no denying that Bitcoin is looking very, very strong. Notice how this target wasn't quite met in time. So this implies that this target saying September next year to 62,000 is probably going to take longer on the basis that this target took longer. But the fact is, if we make a new upside target, then we get the train tracks, multiple targets pointing to this sort of area next year, September, October time. So really quite key there. So really a good one to watch. Looking at the Nasdaq, that's had a pretty good night overnight. We see here US markets. I'm of course in Asian time, just coming into European time. It's 5 o'clock in Fiji at the moment. It's 5 a.m. in London. So we are seeing how the Nasdaq is popping higher there. That was the first target given. We've nearly got to that level. We did pull away from that, but it has taken longer. But on the short-term chart, we have got these targets just pointing higher all the time. 3% higher on this 60-minute chart now that we're pushing higher. So really looking pretty good. Will we get a Santa rally? That's the big question for the year, isn't it? Looking at the S&P 500 future, looking strong again today, activated an upside target some 2% higher, so looking good there on the short-term chart as well. FTSE future yesterday had a reasonable day, not looking anywhere near as strong as US markets, of course, and the DAX has looked stronger of late, having made a new all-time high. Look at that move all the way in October from 14,600 all the way higher, and we see here on the short-term chart, there was the targets. These were targets given all the way up, and that one is being followed. So we haven't quite got to that target in the time that it was given. It was given back in the middle of November, and it was saying around now that we should be at 17,164. We're actually at 1678. So it actually hasn't happened as fast, but the trajectory is about the same. So it does look to be just following that target. So that's really quite interesting. Looking at some of the other markets, Japan has actually started to improve on that weaker yen. Got a good upside target there activated. We have pulled away. Notice that target was met. And if we look at some of the other markets, China has looked really weak with these downside targets, and another new downside target activated despite this relief rally. But we are below the cloud on both charts. The Sensex in India, one of the best looking markets, good upside targets there, and really quite key. And if you look at the very long-term chart, we see, again, this is the weekly chart, good upside targets there as well. So really quite key. The Aussie market also performing a little bit better. Good short-term upside targets here, 2.7%, 3.4%, and this new one activated 7.4% higher. So we are just seeing here a real improvement in markets generally. We'll look at the energy mix in a minute. Gold has actually come back as we've seen risk on assets improving. Gold has actually just come back below that 2,000 level. A real disappointment there. We have activated the upside target to 2,400, but the fact is we have pulled back below the 2,000. We need to hold this 2,000 level realistically. And if we look at the long-term chart for gold, we have activated big targets here, 3,670 all the way out into 2027. But for the moment, we've pulled back below 2,000, so that's something we've got to watch. Tech didn't have such a great day yesterday. Apple down 1.3%. Just can't break this 200 level to a new all-time high. Microsoft did make a new all-time high, but has again just pulled back below the tail on the 60 minutes. So some of the tech majors just not looking quite as strong. A quick look at the energy mix. I know a lot of my clients look at energy. Crude oil has been really weak. Weak on the daily. These downside targets given and met. Here we see on the 60-minute chart, the downside targets were given and met, and actually met much faster. That fall away was right quick. We have actually moved back above the cloud. We were actually bullish out to clients in the morning call yesterday. So it is looking a little bit better on the short term, but the longer term picture for crude isn't that great. Emissions hit new lows yesterday, activating downside targets. This target of 68 was given back at 82. That's been given. We've got another one here at 58.84, that's 12% lower. Of course, we're about to close out on this annual contract, but the fact is the chart's not looking great. And if we look at front month TTF, lots of downside targets here as well on the short-term chart. The medium-term chart looking a little bit better, but we have pulled back below the cloud and not great there. And of course, German power, it's been a big story for me. Most of my clients were saying that we would go below 100 euros, and that's really where we are. We're sitting back in the mid-90s, and we're pretty much reaching the targets that have happened faster. So again, we're coming to the end of that contract as well. So that's it for today. Keep an eye on those targets. And everyone's starting to think about the Santa rally on the run up to Christmas. I'm going back for a swim, but hopefully we'll see you next week when I'm in Australia. Bye for now.